you most about my work. Right, the opportunities. I think the opportunities it gives me to spend my time with really interesting people, yes, and that goes all the way up, from the first year who's just arrived at Oxford, but is full of ideas and hopes and things they want to do and ideas about literature and that kind of thing, right the way up to the most serious academic conversation you might have with a colleague. And I suddenly found myself in the SCR this week having a long conversation with a colleague about whether or not forgiveness be acknowledged, yes, or whether forgiveness was possible if somebody didn't acknowledge that or agree that they needed to be forgiven. I only went in for a cup of coffee and 40 minutes later we were in the middle of this intense conversation, which was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and that it doesn't happen everywhere or anywhere. I'm really intensely fortunate, and just the opportunities I have, the people I meet, and I think that's what I value most about my job. Okay, so I specialise in 16th and 17th century literature, and when I say that to people they usually look a little bit blank. So I have to say that's Shakespeare, that's Milton, and they look a little bit happier. But my main research is based in popular literature of the period, so not Milton and Shakespeare so much, well, Shakespeare a bit, but not so much Milton, not really what highly educated people were reading, but what everybody was reading, which were popular stories of crime and murder. And that's where I started when I did my doctoral research. And the research I'm doing at the moment is a development from that, so I'm currently looking at the idea of prisons, how prisons are represented, again, in popular literature, the idea of penitence, repentance, why is that so important in these narratives? Where does that idea come from? I'm also looking at the interplay at the moment between Catholic and Protestant in the late Elizabethan period, the relationship between how murderers are represented and how martyrs are represented. So that's what I'm doing. So I suppose I would say personally I have a sense of vocation. I think that's clear. And I don't mean that in any kind of self-righteous sense or smug sense. What I mean by that is I enjoy work where I think that I am making a difference to people. That's what I mean. And also, it's not just that I'm making a difference to people, I can actually see it happening. So when I was a nurse, I could see somebody getting better because my care had made a difference to them. The same with teaching. I can see that teaching is making a difference to the students. So I think those two things are very important. Not being worried about hard work. That's something I learned from the age of 18, I suppose, and that's still part of what I am. I suppose part of it is also because of the kind of nursing I did, which was critical care nursing. Any kind of difficulties or crises that arise in academic life are nothing like what you're dealing with if you're looking after really sick people. So yeah, that helps as well. I hope after we spent time together in tutorials and seminars that at the very basic level their knowledge of literature has improved, has increased, their appreciation of literature has developed, and that hopefully that's something they will take with them outside of college, outside of university, and will be something that will inform their whole lives. So tutorials are driven by the students' work. It's not what I do that makes the tutorial a success, it's what the students do. So the students have to have written an essay in preparation for the tutorial, so that'd be around 2,000 words. I usually ask them to send it to me the evening before. So I read it before the tutorial. I don't ask them to read out their essays in tutorials because I find that a little bit of a waste of time. The most important thing is the discussion. And then the tutorial consists of a conversation between me and the students that is generated by their essays. So I very often will start by asking them questions. I may just say, which do you think is the strongest paragraph? Which is your strongest bit of your argument? Let's talk about that. Why do you think it's the strongest? Or I might ask them, which is the weakest? which they were least happy with. Or sometimes I ask them what they had to leave out in order to write their essay. My day will be divided up usually between tutorials, which again are usually between an hour and a half long, depending on whether I have 1 or 2 students. With 2 students I tend to go on a little bit longer. So I may have 2 to 3 tutorials a day. On a very heavy day, a busy day it might be 4, but I try and avoid that because that's a lot of teaching in a single day. And when I'm not teaching tutorials, there are various meetings to attend as well, both meetings in college, meetings in the faculty. So yeah, that would be a typical day with perhaps on the visiting student side, at other times I'll be reading applications, writing references for students, arranging teaching, looking ahead. I would aim to finish around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't give lectures. I don't actually enjoy lecturing very much, insofar as I don't think it's a very efficient way of teaching or learning, so I choose not to do it. I do teach classes and seminars in college, also for the faculty and also for continuing education. I like to stimulate conversation and dialogue between students. And I think if you've done a lot of tutorial teaching, I think lectures just become frustrating things because you can never really interact properly with the students or actually know what they're thinking or whether they're really understanding what you're saying or what is going on, whereas in a seminar or class you can do that because it's dynamic, and I much prefer that. The demands of people on me, I think. And I take full responsibility for that. I'm not very good at saying no. I've got better at it. And I have to acknowledge that is something to do with my own personality, that I've come into academia from it's called a non-traditional route, unconventional route, and therefore maybe there was more of an onus on me to prove myself and to be valued, and therefore to agree to all sorts of things, because then I become useful to people. I like to be useful. The whole of my job incredibly satisfying on a personal level and also on a professional level. So I would say that, and also part of that is I suppose I've fashioned my job for myself, because when I was first employed by Regent College, I was just employed to teach for 1 term for 1 day a week. That was it, was my contract. And then I was asked to stay on for longer, and then I was asked to take on more teaching, and then I began to drive that a little bit more and say, well, if you're going to pay me at an hourly rate and you're paying me for this number of hours, wouldn't you like to just make that into a stipend? Because it makes more sense, doesn't it? So I suppose I've driven that. So in many ways I've formed my own job.